Justin, welcome to Locked In, man. Pleasure having you from Massachusetts. You drove all the way over to us.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's good to be here. I think it should. We'll see how this goes.
And this is your very first podcast.
Very first podcast, yeah. So
That's
not
so
big on
awesome.
social media or podcasts or anything. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I saw your story and resonated. So
I appreciate that a lot, man.
yeah, but
I'm glad we could create this comfortable space for people to want to share their stories.
yeah, I mean it should be therapeutic. Maybe getting some of the stuff out, and I think there's a decent message in terms of some of the stuff that happened.
Absolutely. Did you grow up in Massachusetts?
Yeah, I grew up in a town called Ashland. It's like a small, middle class suburb, Boston, I guess, on the outskirts of Boston.
With your mom, dad, siblings, or just you?
Yeah, mother, father, younger brother. Parents got divorced when I was fairly young, like 8, 9, 10 years old, something like that. But yeah, younger brother, really tight. Good grandparents were really instrumental in my life, so.
What did your parents do for work?
My mother, she's done a few different jobs. At the time, she was working for admissions at college. In fact, I did my first bid. I got out, and 2 weeks later, she had me going to school for free, $20,000 a year school. Which back then, that was I'm old as shit. But back then, that was a decent amount of money. But I was going for free. 2 weeks after getting out of county jail, and I got kicked out after 3 months. So. Decided I wanted to continue with my criminal education instead of fucking business management.
Were you and your parents close?
Yeah. They were both, supportive parents. They're good to me.
What are some morals and values they kind of instilled in you as a kid, from what you can remember?
Yeah, just I got a lot of that, I think, from my grandparents. My mother, she worked a lot, and my father, when we got divorced, we weren't with him a lot. They were just the fact that they were always there for me, so I guess probably loyalty, that gets instilled in you from just seeing stuff like that. But my grandparents, they were really, I think, all the good inside me, I've a lot in my life, but, I feel like it's been a battle sometimes, between my head and my heart. You know what I mean? I got a good heart, but my head's... But my grandparents, the fact that they were always... It didn't matter, when I started getting in trouble, they were always there for me. So, yeah, a lot of... my character is incredibly important to me. And I think I got that mainly from them, but my parents too,
How much do you think that the divorce altered your childhood?
My parents fought a lot. My brother's probably too young to remember. I remember, they weren't happy together. So, I remember, just a lot of fighting for them. So, it was kind of a relief, maybe. I'm sure, initially, it's a shock. They're together your whole life, and then now they're separated. We had to move, we were living in New Hampshire at the time. So, and I think I was getting comfortable in that school system, had friends there and stuff. So, I'm sure it was a little bit of a thing at the time, but, we went up and saw my father every couple weeks or whatever. So he was still involved in our lives. But
how would your brother describe you? If he was here back then, what were you like as a kid?
Well, so, honestly, as a kid, I was a piece of shit. As a young kid, I think I was sweet. My nature, I think that was my. But in high school and stuff, I was a bully. It turned into a piece of shit, coward bully. My brother, I hold a lot of regret and guilt, kind of I wish I was a better older brother to him, the stuff I was going through, at the time, I wasn't equipped to kind of look within and face my own issues, face my own insecurities, low self-confidence, whatever stuff I was dealing with at the time. So I took it out on other people, looking at that, like it's something like I look back and I'm ashamed of, but I also kind of grew out of it quickly. Like my first bid, I remember I went to the mods initially. Like I got a 6-month sentence when I was a senior in high school. Decided instead of graduating, I'll go to Billerica, So I went to county for 6 months, and I got lugged. I was in the mods, got in a fight, and got lugged behind the wall. And I was there like a few weeks, and I seen these two dudes like young, like my age, they were like guys that were respected in there, and they ran up on some dude. It was canteen day. They ran up and took the guy's canteen, and I remember like just thinking like I lost all respect for him. It's like that's like you guys are fucking bullies. Like you're cowards. Like you guys are supposed to be about something. Like I lost all respect for him when I was looking down on him. And I don't think it was like an immediate like recognition, but it wasn't long after. Like at some point, like it hit me. I was like, oh shit, like I'm no better. Like I didn't really beat people up in high school. Like I wasn't giving kids swirlies or whatever, but I was like vicious. Like I was, like mentally abusive, and like I just like, so I was like, I was no better than those dudes looking down on, and that was really kind of like my first like life evolution, I think, like and it's just sometimes like what I've found, like prison sucks, right? Doing time sucks, but it does afford you the luxury to think, right? Like you get a lot of time to kind of think about, stuff like who you are and how you are. Like also like that first bid, like I decided like my character was important to me. Like I wanted to be fucking a good person. I wanted to be a man of my word. I wanted to, I've tried to do that. Like even when I was fucking up a lot, like later in life, like I tried to maintain like a just a core set of values and principles. And, you still fuck up. Like life is about like making mistakes, but, I try to always, like, it should matter, like it should matter, and it matters to me.
Why'd you go to jail that first time? I mean, 6 months for a senior in high school seems like a lot.
Yeah, I had a gun. I took my grandfather, he used to collect guns. So I like to say I borrowed it. Other people say I stole it. So I was going to return it. Like I took a gun from him, and I had it. Like I didn't bring it to school or anything. Like I think I was probably planning on like robbing drug dealers or whatever. Like I had already, I was on a bad path in life, So like I was up to no good with it, but I didn't do anything with it. Like I think, like I showed it to a couple of friends or whatever, and like I was selling weed at the time. Like I sold like an eighth to some kid. Like I was buddies with, and he knew about the gun, and like his parents found it, and so he ratted me out. Like he didn't even get arrested. Like his just parents found the eighth, and he was like, "Justin Peck, you got a gun," fucking. So like they called the school or whatever, and so they found that.
And there was no alternative. I don't know. It just seems a little harsh if you didn't have any ill intentions with it.
Well. Yeah, I mean, so like in general, I think like a problem with like the criminal justice system is they're too quick to like incarcerate people that you should be trying to help. You know what I mean? Like I think a lot of kids, like, I mean, I've seen it happen. Like I'll get into stories later, maybe just like young dudes who are in prison, and I didn't think they should have been. You know what I mean? Like they had a chance, like, and maybe what they did was fucked up. You know what I mean? Like when my buddy Ann or whatever, like the Patriots lost the Super Bowl and he was drunk and like he suckered some kid off a bike and he got hurt. So it's like, it's a bad thing, right? Like you should have some sort of consequences, but like he was doing like, they sent him to like, I met him in maximum security prison, and he's up there hanging with like, killers and guys doing natural life sentence. And he learned how to be a criminal. And then, like, I heard after I got out, like, he wasn't out a year. And, like, now he's back for, like, 20 years. Like, he picked up a fucking screamer so I don't know. Like, they should be a lot more proactive with identifying, particularly when it's young people. You know what I mean? Like, young kids, like, just too quick to incarcerate people, which is just going to, like, they wonder why the fucking recidivism rate is so high for people it's high because you lock people up. You don't give them any like programs or like opportunity to like better themselves. You just send them, lock them up. Most people are going to get out again. You know what I mean? And they get out and, yeah. So like in general, I think like they're too quick to incarcerate people. On the flip side, like for me, like I did have a gun and I mean, I was destined to like, you know, end up locked up anyway. I think like I was fucked up when I was younger, just highly self-destructive, you know.
When you saw those, you know, younger inmates come through later on when you were in prison serving your longer sentence, did you see a little bit of you in them? Did it give you like some reflection?
Yeah, certainly like probably some of the guys, you know, like it just like I don't know, like Ant particular. There was another kid. He got locked up. He got a 2-year sentence. They sent him to maximum security prison. This dude had 6 months left to wrap, and there was a beef. Like the dude, I'll probably get to this story, but like I got my throat cut when I was locked up, and the dude who cut my throat, like he's doing a natural life sentence. Like he's like a killer, very dangerous dude. Like so, there's some sort of beef. Like I wasn't in the block when it happened, and this dude, the guy Mikey, ended up smashing the guy's head in with a cane, like beat him with his own cane, and 2 other guys got hemmed up, locked up for it. One dude just walked by and like closed the curtain, which is kind of like just a convict thing to do, right? Like you see a fight, like you close the curtain so like COs can't see. He got a 2nd-degree murder sentence because of that. And the kid who had 6 months left, I don't think he was the one who closed the curtain. I think like the fight initially started with him, and then Mikey came in to help him. But because the fight initially started with him, they had him as a co-defendant too. And Mikey tried to do the right thing. He tried to, you know, say it was all me. They didn't know I was going to do it, like da-da-da. But they gave that kid a 2nd-degree sentence too. And it's just, I remember just being like horrified at that story. Like I was waiting to go to DDU and I was in 10 block with the kid. And motherfucker had 6 months left. Like he was planning to get out, like, you know, talk, like his mother was all excited and shit like that. And now, like, the rest of his life's fucking done. Like, it's, yeah, there's problems within the criminal justice system, you know. But yeah, I certainly probably saw, and that's probably why I took an affinity to some of those guys, you know what I mean? Like Ant, I probably saw some of myself in them. Like, just mainly like potential, the potential to be better. Like he wasn't, like I think a lot of the white guys, like sometimes, like they get locked up, like they get drug problems and stuff like that. Like Ant, like he wasn't a junkie. Like he was just like, he made a dumb mistake, you know, like he was fucking drunk. He's pissed off the Patriots lost and he did something stupid. But like most kids do stupid shit, you know what I mean? It's just sometimes you get locked up and it's like if he came from money or whatever, I'm sure like strings would have got pulled and he would have never got locked up. And like he could have been something. Like he was a smart kid. Like I think he could have, you know, had a different life than a life of crime, which is, you know, it's just sad.
So you do those 6 months in county. Do you go back to school and finish it up, or?
Yeah, so I ended up getting my GED. I got my GED, and I was out like literally like 2 weeks, and then I was living on campus. The college has since shut down, but I was living in Brookline, you know, going for free because my mother worked for admissions. So like really good opportunity, and like I wasn't very good at school. Like I didn't pay attention, you know what I mean? I didn't, but like even I found in college it was a little bit different. There were courses that I was interested in. Like there was a psychology course that I liked, the business shit I was interested in. So I didn't find like the work wasn't too much. Like obviously, like I was partying a lot, you know? So yeah, like I went back to school, but yeah, I got kicked out after 3 months.
3 months you made it.
Yeah, I made it 3 months.
Why'd you get kicked out?
I was getting in fights. I got in a fight like I think like my first week there or something, and I remember like I got pulled in the guy's office, and he was like a personal friend of my mother's, and he was like the dude I hit was like an RD or something, which is like a you know, like basically like a student snitch or whatever, but like you know, he works for the college or whatever. So like I had an issue with him and I hit him, and I I remember I go into Paul's office and he's like, all right. I'm like, sorry, I didn't know he was the RD. And he was like, you can't hit anybody. RD, any other students, you can't hit anybody. I was like, all right, yeah, sorry. But I was like, yeah, I wouldn't have done that if I knew he was the RD. He's like, no, Justin, you can't hit anybody. Like, oh, okay, I got you, Paul.
Where do you think that anger came from, that your first instinct was to fight? Where does that come from?
Yeah, so, I mean, that's something like I thought a lot about in my life. Like, I don't, like, obviously there was some anger. But I think for me more it was like I didn't like myself obviously in high school, like the way that I was, like to be that type of person. Like obviously like I wasn't confident. I wasn't comfortable with myself. And then when I got locked up, like I had been in a few like, you know, schoolyard fights and shit like that. But when I got locked up, like I remember like the first fight I was in the mods, like I won that one against a guy. And then like the next one, like it was a good fight. And then I got my ass kicked a couple times. But what I realized after all those situations was like it didn't matter. Like it didn't matter if I won or lost. Like it just, like it was a way that I could kind of like respect myself, you know? So I think what ended up happening was it kind of became my identity, you know? Like I didn't, like I got into a lot of shit. And like, if you look at my prison history or you saw the amount of things that I got into, you'd be like, yeah, that dude's got some serious anger issues, you know? And obviously like anger's a part of it. Like you're getting triggered and you're willing to fight. But for me more, it was just like, it became like a way for me to at least respect myself. You know what I mean? Like I didn't, it took a long time for me to kind of work on myself to like, you know, like myself, I guess, a little bit, you know? In fact, it's still fucking a struggle. It's probably part of the reason why I've struggled so much since getting out. That was at least a way that I could respect myself. So I just had like a very, like low tolerance. Like even if a situation, like if I felt like somebody was disrespecting me or whatever, like I would just be like, all right, let's just sling, you know? So
do you still feel like you're that person now, or do you feel like you've changed and grown since then?
Yeah, no, I've definitely evolved. I mean, I still like, so I haven't been in a fight. I've been out almost 7 years now, and I haven't been in one fight since I've been out. But there has been situations like, you know, I ended up getting like my truck driver's license, and I work in construction, and like that's a field where like you just, I don't know, like guys are out working in the heat and shit. Like it there's going to be arguments sometimes, or like situations where you're going to be dealing with different personalities. And I've still found myself like I've been ready, you know, a few times. So like it's not something I've completely like grown out of, you know, like I wish, like I meditate and stuff like that, but I'm certainly no like Buddhist monk, you know? But I try to avoid it. Like I know like getting out, that was the number one issue that I had to solve. And I think a lot of the stuff that, like a lot of the problems that I had since getting out, like a lot of the struggles that I've had, it's just like I lost that as like my form of identity. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like it's not a healthy confidence, but it's still like a confident. You know what I mean? Like I just like I felt like I kind of lost my personality, I guess, or a lot. Like it's just been a struggle to kind of find some of that shit.
So let's talk about the lead up to the prison sentence that you ultimately would serve 17 years. How old were you when you got sentenced?
Yeah, I was 21 at the time. So I had gotten out a Billerica for the 6 months, went to college. I got locked up again for 15 months. And then I got out, and I was out maybe like 8 months or so. And yeah, so I was 21. That was it was a Halloween party. And yeah, I showed up. We were invited, like the girl who was hosting the party. It was me and 3 friends. So we went there, and it was one of those things like it was evident, like as soon as we got there, like even though we were invited, like we weren't a welcome presence. Like all the other guys at the party, like, you know, nobody knew us. Like we're from a different town. So it was clear, like there was you know, kind of tension, like right off the bat. And my buddy Richie, like he said to me, like, we were there 5-10 minutes maybe, and he was like, "Yo, Peck, we should just bounce." I was like, fuck that. I was like, there's girls and there's beer. If they don't like it, they can leave, you know? Like, that was just kind of my mindset at the time. Like, I was really, like, just kind of foolish and self-destructive. So, yeah, we hung around, and that was a regret I've thought about a lot. Like, when I was locked up, I wish I would have just left, you know? But, yeah, so we were there, and it's funny, like funny in the fucked up way. But like I said, like there's a lot of tension, like right off the bat, like every dude like there, like giving us like, you know, fucking like the hard eyes and shit like that. The one dude, we were there in, you know, like 10 minutes and we're smoking weed. And the guy who ended up dying, like he came outside and he was like, you know, you mind if I smoke with you? And like I was chopping it up with him. Like he was the one dude who like I had like a pleasant interaction with, you know what I mean? The guy who ended up getting killed, which, you know, I mean, I wish nobody lost their life that night, but it was just one of those kind of fucked up things. But yeah, so like the fight, it didn't even start with me. Like my buddy, he was blackout drunk, like basically like he got in some stupid argument. The dude who ended up dying, the girl that he was there with, like he had an argument with one of my friends. She had an argument with one of my friends. And she just, like I was sitting on the couch or whatever talking to somebody. And I just see this girl run in and punch my buddy in the face. And he like kind of pushed her and she like stumbled over and like fell into like the stereo system. And that's when shit just popped off. Like dude started running in from the kitchen to like jump on him. So I ran to help him out. And, you know, then I started getting fucked up, and I had a knife on me. So like I was damn near like I remember like I was down on the ground like on my knees like trying to get to my feet, and you know, kind of blinking away the punches and like close to unconscious. And then, you know, I got to my feet, unfortunately, as it turned out, and I had the knife in my hand and I just like swung it, you know. It was just at that point, like I was just kind of acting on instinct, you know. And it hit the guy one time in the wrong spot, hit him in the chest, and he died.
How intoxicated were you during this, if at all?
Yeah, I was drinking, but like I don't think it played that much of a role. Like, I mean, it obviously played a role in the altercation. My buddy was really shit-faced. Like, I had no idea the thing was going on. So, like, I wasn't really that cognizant or aware of stuff. And I should have been, because, like, it was one of those situations, like we knew there was tension there. Like, you know, basically, you knew something was going to jump off. But the reason why I had the knife in the first place was I thought that I would just be able to pull it out. And my big thing back then was, like everything, like try to make sure we just have a one-on-one fight, right? Like if somebody had an issue with, like basically there were two of us that would have fought. It was me or the dude who got in the argument. And I was like, if one of them has an issue, like I'll just pull the knife out and kind of like we're outnumbered, like we're greatly outnumbered, but I'll be able to like just threaten and make sure like we get a one-on-one fight, and then, you know, we can get the fuck out of there after. So I should have been like more aware of like what was going on, you know, because the shit just caught me by surprise, and shit popped off, and yeah, it takes one fucking second, and then everything can change, you know. I was on my way to serving the vast majority of my adult life in prison, and somebody died, you know. He was a father like that. So, yeah.
When did you realize what happened in that moment?
So I ended up getting knocked out at the scene, and then I woke up later handcuffed to the hospital bed, and I didn't know anybody was dead, but like I woke up handcuffed to the hospital bed. Like I knew, like I think almost like intuitively, like I just knew, you know, like and so yeah, it was at that point, like not long after I woke up, and then like I don't know how long it was. Like the cops were standing over my side and they started trying to interrogate me. So, I'm sure it got verified like shortly after I woke up. But yeah.
What was going through your mind when you found out what happened, what you were being charged with, and when did you start to realize, I wish I left that party?
Well, I mean, I probably like, like at the time at the, like when they're there, like it's almost like I think maybe I was in like just convict mode or whatever. Like just the cops are trying to interrogate you, so I'm just like not saying anything to them. But like when they got me back to the police station, and I'd been arrested quite a few times before then, so like that was I was no stranger to circumstances like that. But it's a different thing when you know that you killed somebody and like they're talking about like murder charges. So yeah, it was back when I got to the police station. I think it really started to hit me or like dawn on me like the situation. And then I remember like I was there. It might have been like the next day. They let my mother come in like to bring me breakfast or whatever. And like just seeing the look on her face, like she had seen me with fights and stuff, but I was all fucked up. Like, so my head was like swollen. Like I was really, they fucked me up pretty good. Like seeing her face like that was tough. Like we just both broke down crying, I think the cop even they let her come in like the prison cell, like, and she the jail cell or whatever, and hug me. So, but that was a low point in life,
Did your parents stay supportive all throughout the legal proceedings up until the prison sentence?
Yeah, absolutely. My father and my grandfather, like I believe they were the ones who paid for my attorney, and they paid like a decent amount of money. Like I had a really a high-priced attorney, and my mother, she's always been there. Like throughout my bid, she would come up and just always made sure I had canteen money. Would always come up to visit and stuff. So.
Do you think that high-paid attorney made a difference? Because the end result was you still got a lengthy prison sentence.
Yeah, well, so it made a difference. They offered me a 5 to 6 year plea to plead guilty to manslaughter, which is incredibly low for having a body case, So yeah, that it made a difference in that respect. I was stupid enough to turn it down. Like I just, which still doesn't make sense because. I had done time before. At that point, at the point when they offered me the plea deal, like I had already had like a couple years in, so I was basically looking at like a 4-year sentence max when like what I was risking, taking it to trial and losing. But I thought maybe the extenuating circumstances, like me getting fucked up as much as I was, like even if I did get found guilty, like I was charged with 2nd-degree murder. Like I knew my lawyer told me, he was like, if they find you guilty, it'll be a manslaughter conviction. So you're not like, I didn't think I was going to be a life sentence. And with the manslaughter, I thought maybe I'd get like a 10 to 12, something like that. So I didn't think that I was risking as much as I was. Like, the judge cited my record and stuff, but he hit me like the max for manslaughter in Massachusetts, I think is 18 to 20. So I got a 15 to 18, so it was pretty steep. But at the same point, like that's the game, right? Like if they offer you a plea and you turn it down, like once they get you, like they're gonna smoke you to make an example. And somebody died, so like I probably deserved it.
I mean, it's a tough situation because if you're looking back on it now, you're thinking, what would have happened if I just took the plea? But then on the other end, what if I went to trial and won?
Yeah, well, so one of the toughest periods of my prison sentence was like 6 years in when I knew that if I took the fucking plea, like I would have been home and I still had like over a decade left. Like, so that was certainly tough to deal with when I was in there. But I think like the way, like as I got older, like the way that I kind of rationalized it or just talked myself into being able to live with it was like, it took me a while to kind of grow and evolve, right? Like, so if I took the plea and got out, like I was still fucking probably going to be an idiot back then, you know? So maybe I would have got out and hurt somebody else or did something else fucked up. It took me a long time to kind of work through my issues and the guilt and the self-hatred and shit like that. So, you know, I don't know. You never know how things are going to turn out, right? But like I wasn't in a place, like even if I went to trial and I got found not guilty, like I was still an idiot. Like it's not like I wasn't at a point where I was going to be able to turn my life around and become a productive, like good member of society. Like I still like had this thing where like I thought I was like a criminal or whatever, you know? And so I would have done something else stupid.
When you went to trial, what were the final charges you were convicted of?
They found me guilty of manslaughter.
So how does
voluntary manslaughter. So I was charged with second degree and
second degree murder?
Yeah, that was the charge. And in fact, when they read it, they said that I was guilty, but like so they said I was guilty, and then they said the second. So they said that they read in the charge of second degree. They were like, we find the defendant guilty. So like I was like, oh shit, like I just got a life sentence, and then they continued reading. They were like, of the lesser charge, manslaughter. So then I was like, okay, it's not murder. And then I was like, oh shit, I'm still fucking guilty, you know?
So that's interesting that they can pick either murder or manslaughter.
Yeah, I believe, if I remember correctly, I think I had the option of just, no, actually I don't think so. Like, yeah, I think they always had the option of finding me guilty of a lesser degree. Oh, it was, involuntary manslaughter, like somehow like that was an option too. Like there's a way where you can say like you didn't want to have the option of that, which kind of forces like their hand maybe, I guess, to find you guilty of either manslaughter or second.
Did you testify on your own behalf?
No, I didn't. And that's like looking back on it, I kind of wish I had. Like I think, and my lawyer, like it made sense. I think at the time he was like, listen, if you sit there with your suit and tie on, like you just look like a good college kid. And, you know, if we put you on stand, like I think he was worried about like the prosecutor being able to get to me and then like it would have gave them the option to, I think if I took the stand, they were going to be able to bring up my record. And, you know, I had already done a couple bids and there was violence on it and stuff. So, but I think, you know, the jury finding me, I think in a case like that, they want to hear your side of the story.
I feel like you have to, and because you're trying to say self-defense.
Right. So we were relying on like other people's testimony, you know, and it was a big brawl. Like, so they had pictures of me fucked up. So like they knew that I had been beat up. And with a lot of the witness testimony, like there was, you know, there's obviously varying accounts, but even some of the prosecution's witnesses, like they basically said, you know, like I was kind of like getting hit or beat up, you know. But it's one of those things like the guy who died, like he was unarmed, so like you stab an unarmed man in the chest, like there's, you know, I think it was a close case. Like I understand, like I had a chance probably to beat it, and it was probably 50-50. Maybe another jury, like they find me not guilty, but the jury probably, I mean, they got it right. Like I stabbed somebody and he died, and I deserve definitely to probably pay for it. You know.
What happened to your friend? That was kind of the main piece of this whole thing.
Well, fucking ironically, I hopped in to help him out, but he had run away that night. He which I just like, I don't even really hold him account. Like, I think that was more the booze because, I mean, he was a tough fucker, and I had been through like a lot of stuff with him, and he had been through situations of mine where he had my back. Like, I'd been jumped before, and he was there for me. So I don't know, maybe it's just like he saw what happened, and it caused him to run. But my issue more with him was like after the fact, like he didn't, like he tried to justify it. Like he told me, like he was like, oh, I was running to get my girlfriend's car, and I was gonna run the guys over that were jumping you or whatever. And it's like, motherfucker, like your girlfriend lives like 30 minutes away. You were running to get her car and fucking. So like it just, I would have liked to hear, like my other friend, like so, like the fight happened in the house, and I ended up getting dragged outside. And I remember like I woke up, like I had been knocked out in there, but I woke up when I was outside. They had dragged me outside, and like a kid was sitting on my back, and he had like kind of like my head peeled up, and like another dude was getting ready to boot me in the face. And I heard this kid like in the background going like, just give him a one-on-one, just give him a one-on-one. So like, which wasn't very helpful at that point. But I ended up getting bailed out for a time, and I saw him and like, I remember him like apologizing to me and like crying, like he was beat up about it, like he felt bad about it, and so like I appreciated that, and I think kind of like from my other friend's perspective, it just would have been nice to hear him say like dude, I fucked up, like I didn't mean to run away, but to each their own,
So you get convicted. They sentence you and they give you the 15 to 18?
Yeah.
And where do they send you? And you're 21 years old or 22, 23?
Yeah, I was 21 when it happened. I think it happened in 97. I didn't go upstate until like 2001. So I was out a while before like waiting trial. What happened, like initially, like I was locked up for like 10 months, and I think like, my father and my grandfather, they were asking my lawyer, like, how long until he goes to trial? Like, we want to get him out of there. And he told them a year. He estimated a year. But like, so like 10 months in, like something came, like they found out like they hadn't even tested, like they had to do like DNA testing and stuff. So they were looking at more time. So, they requested my lawyer to try to get my bail reduced. So it was $100,000 I was locked up for initially, and then they lowered it to 50 G's, and my grandfather bailed me out.
How much you have to pay on the 50,000? Is it just 10% in Massachusetts, or?
Yeah, well, I think you could do like a bond. I think it was 50,000 cash that they had to pay.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And do they get that back?
Yeah, they got it back.
Okay.
And that was the thing too, like because I ended up. I got my bail revoked, but like that was a big question, like kind of initially to my lawyer. I was like if I get my bail revoked, like they're still gonna get their money. He said the only way they don't get their money is if you run. So, and I knew I wouldn't do that to them,
So after you're sentenced, where do they send you off to?
So I went to, it was Concord at the time. That used to be the classification section. So like it was state prison, obviously then. So I went to Concord. I was there like a few months, and then I got sentenced. They classed me to Shirley Max because, the amount of time that I had. Like I was always going to go to maximum security just because of the case, initially anyway, because of my case and the amount of time that I was doing. So like one of the issues, like when I was in Concord, like, obviously like I just came in like that felt like a life sentence to me. You know what I mean? Like I was 21 at the time. Like I just remember thinking about it. It was like 18 years of like I have to do like the full thing, like with no appeals or whatever. Like that's essentially like from the time I was 3 to the time that I caught my case. Like that's the amount of time that I have to do. It's just like to a kid, like that just, it felt like my entire life,
Yeah, you missed like all your 20s.
Yeah. I missed all my 20s and all my 30s. I got out when I was 39.
How much time do you have to serve on a 15 to 18?
So you can see parole at 15.
You have to do the whole 15 before you can even
Yeah,
make it to parole?
there's different states where you get like statute good time and shit like that, you know, but like, yeah, you got to serve, you serve the bottom number. Like you can earn good time and shit, but like I was an idiot when I was locked up, so I didn't get much good time.
But that's not reducing the 15.
It does. It comes off
Okay.
both. It comes off both numbers. Yeah.
Okay, so you could have, if you didn't get into trouble in prison, you could have gotten out earlier.
Yeah. And I definitely so I ended up serving 17 and a half. But yeah, like I could have theoretically gotten a parole, like if I was good in there and stuff.
Now, with your kind of charges, how do they treat you? How do other inmates look at you?
Well, I mean, I went to maximum security, so like there's other dudes, like guys who got bodies and natural life sentence. So like I don't think it was anything like particularly like oh, this guy's, you know, a killer or whatever. Like people don't care. So, but I was I got into a lot of shit in there. So I don't know, like I ended up probably developing a reputation. Like I remember getting out of DDU one time, and then like I got out, and I don't know, I was trying to be good, but something else happened, and I was back in DDU, and it was like all the COs, like they would see me, and like I'd go, and like the dudes on the tier, they're like, Peck, you're back. Like what took you so long, you know? And I remember like it hitting me. I'm like, I have a reputation. Like I'm in a maximum security prison. And like I'm looking at other people like they're crazy and stuff, and I was like, motherfuckers think I'm crazy. Like what the fuck? Like what happened to me? You know?
Now share with us some of the things that you were getting yourself in trouble with inside these prisons.
Yeah. So like I mean a lot of fights, like a lot of stuff like that. I mean there was dumb shit, just like, you know, like the COs like tell you to do something or whatever, and just you know, being generally like you know, not listening to their rules and regulations or whatever. But yeah, the biggest issue, like I got into a lot of altercations when I was locked up.
What would you say was the craziest, biggest altercation that you got into?
Well, probably where I got my throat cut. Like,
Yeah, tell us what happened there and what went down.
Yeah, so that was in Walpole. Dude, Mikey, like, so he had gotten out of DDU. He was a friend of mine, but we're in the DSU block. So like Walpole, like was weird. Like 10 block was pretty big. Like that's the whole, but like Walpole was pretty violent back in the day. And like, there was a lot of stuff going on. So it was one of those situations, like they opened up a couple other blocks where if you did something like bad, like if you got caught with a knife or whatever, like they wouldn't even send you to 10 block anymore. They'd just send you to like the DSU block. So we were in that block, we were locked up 23 hours a day. You'd get out, or maybe 22. I think maybe we got 2-hour recreation periods. But yeah, locked up the majority of the day, and they would do it by sectors. You would get out kind of by sector. So Mikey was in my same sector. And so, like I said, like he was a friend of mine. Remember, like we bonded. Like there was this dude, Boathead, who turned out to be a fucking rat. So we're on the wrong side of that. But like guys were like starting to kind of turn against him, and me and Mikey were friends with him. So like we kind of like had his back, you know what I mean, in a certain situation. It never amounted to anything when we were there, but there was kind of like a mutual respect that like even though like the tide had started to turn with this guy, like we were still willing to roll with him, you know. And I knew Mikey was crazy, like he was a dangerous kid, but he was my friend. So he had gotten out of DDU, and so we're locked up in the sector, and I was buying booze off this dude, Bolivia. He used to make fire fucking homebrew. And so I was like, Mikey, I'm going to get 8 bottles of brew. I'm like, you want to drink with me? And he was like, nah, man, I shouldn't, bro. I was like, come on, Mikey, come on. So I kept trying to talk this motherfucker into drinking with me. And he was like, nah, I really shouldn't. I really shouldn't. And now I realize why he was saying that. Like, he doesn't handle his booze well. And I think he was on, like, clonopins, too. So, like, that's a bad mix when you take beans and fucking and drink. And like I said, he made good booze. So he was in the cell next door to me. And so, like, finally he says, like, he's like, yeah, all right, I'll drink with you. So we're drinking, and then, like, I don't know, just, like, shooting the shit on the tier or whatever, because we were locked up. Like, our recreation hadn't come out. Like, I think we had, like, nighttime rec or whatever that day, because the fight ended up happening during chow time. But so, like, so when he was in DDU, there was a good friend of mine, JT, like, him and Johnny had an issue. So when he came out and I seen him at the DSU block, like, we had talked about it. He was like, hey, just to let you know, like, JT had an issue. And I had already heard from JT, like, I knew they had their thing or whatever. And I was like, Mikey, I'm like, listen, you two are, you know, like, as long as you don't jump them or whatever, you know what I mean? Like you guys just handle your business when you see each other, if that's, you know. So, like, that wasn't an issue. But when he had some liquor in him, like, so we're shooting the shit back and forth. And then all of a sudden, like, kind of out of nowhere to me, he was like, Peck, he was like, your boy's a bitch. And I was like, huh? I'm like, what, Mikey? He's like, your boy's a bitch. And I was like now I started to get kind of aggravated, like, his tone. And I was like, Mikey, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, you heard me. He's like, JT's a bitch. And then all I said, I was like, yeah, well, you won't say that to his face. And he was like, well, I'm saying it to your face. And at that point, like, the way I was in there or whatever, like, it wasn't about him and JT having an issue anymore. It was about, like, him kind of, like, calling me out or whatever. So I was like, all right, when the doors crack, like, come in my cell and fucking we'll talk about it. He was like, all right. And so that was it. And the thing with that is, like, so Mikey, like, he had a reputation already at that point for stabbing people. Like, he was, like, kind of little and frail. And I'm not, like, a big, intimidating dude, but, like, I knew that I'd be able to, like, handle Mike. Like, he couldn't fight. Like, sorry, Mike. I mean, he's doing natural anyway, so I don't think you're going to hear this. But, but, like, and I knew, like, he had already showed me, like, the knife that he had. So I knew he had a knife, and I knew he was going to come in on me with the knife. But I was really, because of my case, like I was in the minority in terms of being in Walpole. Like, I didn't ever generally have a knife. Like, there were a few occasions where, like, I'd borrow one off somebody, like a situation where, you know, we thought shit was going to jump off, like, really serious or whatever. But, and I had plenty of time. Like, I knew he was going to come in with a knife on me, but I was just, like, maybe, like, overconfident. And I thought, like, even if he has a knife, like, I'll just be able to, like, put one on his chin and fucking end it, you know? But unfortunately, he didn't come in with the knife. Like, I ended up finding this out after. I mean, he had a box cutter. I found out when it happened, but I found out after, like, how he got it. He was in DDU, and, like, people used to, like, hide, like, knives. Like, one of the places to, like, hide knives was in, like, the light shaft. So he had gone in to hide, like, whatever knife in the light shaft, and, like, a maintenance worker must have left behind, like, a box cutter razor blade. So, like, he took that. So when he came in on me, like, he had it. It was, like, tied, like, fashioned on, like, a plastic handle. Like, he had it all rigged up. But I seen it. Like, I was in the back of the cell when they cracked the doors for chow. Like, it happened at chow time. And I seen him in the doorway at that. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, and I ended up freezing because what ended up happening, like, he just walked up to me and kind of, like, put it under my neck and started cutting. And I didn't react until, like late. Like, I was really lucky. Like, when they took me to the hospital later to, like, to stitch me up, like, they told me the carotid artery was exposed. They said if that shit went a hair deeper, like, I was going to bleed out, you know?
So this guy was aiming to kill you?
Oh, yeah.
All over this? This doesn't seem like a serious thing to kill someone over.
Yeah, but the problem is, though, right, yeah, it wasn't, and we were friends. Like, we had that friendship. But he was drunk. He was on beans, which I think contributed to the fact that there was. I mean, it obviously contributed to the fact that there was an issue in the first place. But he was a killer. Like, he didn't fight. Like, so to him, and even like he called over to my cell like before they cracked the doors, before he came out. He was like, hey Peck. He's like, you know, like he called my name and I didn't answer, and I just wouldn't answer him. And then he was like, you know what time it is, right? And I look back on it and like now, if it happened, like I would have answered him, because I think he was gonna maybe try to dead the issue, you know. But he was telling me like, you know what's gonna happen, and I knew he was gonna come in with the knife and try to get me. I didn't know he had the box cutter razor. Like, my thinking, like when I saw that, was like my thinking if he came in with the knife, I was gonna be offensive, right? Like I was just gonna try to like just go up and hit him before he could like get off a good shot or whatever, and hopefully drop him or get control of the situation. But when I seen the box cutter, I'm like, what the fuck do I do? Like, if I get offensive, like he's just gonna slice me up like fucking Zero, you know?
Yeah, is it possible to defend yourself against like a prison shank if you're unarmed?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like if you're taught, yeah, you just try to hit him on the jaw, you know? I guess if you have time to prepare, like you could make like a suit, like like magazines to your chest and stuff like that. Like that's probably a good idea. I got stabbed later on in my bid, and I probably should have done that, but I didn't know he was going to have a knife either. But yeah, so Mikey came in, he had the box cutter, and yeah, like I think I froze. And looking back, like I don't know, like I had been through situations before, so like I always kind of took like I must have been scared, like I was scared, kind of frozen, because even like he didn't swing it, like he just walked up to me and kind of put it under my neck, and it was really like a delayed reaction on my part, you know. I'm really lucky, fucking I didn't die, but yeah, so he started cutting, and then like I was able to grab his hand and kind of throw him down on the bed, and like like that was just crazy. So like I had him down, and like he was pinned, and it was in his left hand, like he must be a lefty or whatever. So like just the way like I was like body positioned and stuff like that, like I had like my right hand was obviously like grabbing his wrist, but so I just kind of had him pinned, and it was just like a stalemate, like I couldn't really do anything or whatever. But like my neck's gushing, and like the first thing like he said to me was like, he's like, I did this because you're my boy. And I got pissed off, and like so I started like I let go of his hand, and I'd start hitting him, and then like his arm would start coming up like he was, you know, gonna go for my neck again, and I'd have to grab I grab his hand and put it back down. And then the second thing he said, he was like, he said it again. He was like, I did this because you're my boy, man. I love you, bro. It's like, you fucking love me, you motherfucker. You just tried to decapitate me. So like I get pissed again and fucking hit him. And then the third thing he said, he was like, bro, you're gonna bleed out. He's like, you're gonna bleed out, bro. And I was like, Mikey, I was like, you gotta drop the razor. And he's like, I can't do it, man. I'm like, Mikey, you gotta drop the fucking razor. He's like, I can't do it. So, Mikey, I give you my word, I'll just let you get the fuck out of the cell. Just drop the fucking razor. And there was like a hesitation or whatever. And then I don't know if he verbally said that he would or if it was something in his eyes, but like I let his wrist up, and he started like going because I couldn't get the thing. He had it tied to his wrist. So I couldn't get it out of his hand when I had him down. So like he started like going like that with his wrist or whatever, and the thing started unraveling. And then I let his other hand up, and he grabbed it, and then he threw it on the floor. And then I remember like my hand cocked back, like fucking, like I was thinking about maybe unloading on him. But at that point, like for all I knew, like I was bleeding out. Like I wasn't dizzy or anything, but my neck was fucking gushing, you know? So I grabbed the razor blade and threw it in the toilet, and he just got out, went back into his own cell. And so like it happened at chow time, and I remember like I think it was like pot roast or roast beef or something, but it was like one of like the exclusive dinners that I liked. And so this dude D-Block, this dude I used to play poker with, like he saw that I didn't come down and get chow, So he fucking sent the screw 00 up, big black dude, 00, with like a tray. He was like, he didn't see me go down. Like the fight was so quiet, and like he didn't apparently hear like the initial argument, so he didn't know anything happened. So he sent the screw up to my cell. So I remember like 00, like he was like, "Hey, D Block sent this to you," and I had like a fucking sheet tied around my neck at that point. There was blood like everywhere, you know, like I had already soaked through the towels and stuff. So 00 seen that, he was like, "Yeah, we got a 1099 or whatever, you know, fucking code there was at the time to call the shit in." But that's how they ended up like discovering it, which was good for me anyway, because like it was a weird situation. Like, so like I was just worried about kind of stopping the bleeding, but I was going to be in a tough spot because like I didn't want to like, I don't know, I didn't want to yell to the COs like be like, "Help, I need help." You know what I mean? So I was going to have to, like, my plan was, provided I was going to do that. Like if I started to feel like lightheaded or whatever, like I was bleeding out. But, you know, like I had been alive long enough to think like, okay, it didn't nick an artery. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'd be probably dead already. So, but like my plan was like, obviously I know I needed medical attention. Like I was going to like go after him again when they cracked the doors for like to trays. So I'm lucky that didn't happen, because he's obviously still, he used the box cutter, so he still had a knife in there, and like I was, you know, pretty badly wounded. So it ended up working in my favor that D Block saw I didn't get shot, and he sent the screw up.
What ended up happening to the guy that attacked you? He stayed in the unit, or?
No, he got DDU for that. Like, so I ended up writing him like an affidavit. Like I told like I wrote in the affidavit, I was like, yeah, which this was good of me, like, because you don't like to have any like suicide things on your thing, but I told him, I was like, "Hey, I cut myself and Mikey came in to help me out or whatever." But they didn't buy that. They knew that was bullshit. So he still ended up getting DDU time.
And you didn't have to technically snitch.
Yeah, no, I didn't fucking, in fact, like I got a ticket for it like this. So I went down, like I had to go out to the outside hospital, but you know, like the Ips saw me when I was down there or whatever, and you know, they asked what happened. I said, "Oh, I cut myself shaving." So I got a ticket that says like I cut myself shaving, which is funny.
So now these prison hospitals, were they equipped to handle your like a wound like that?
No, they had to take me to the outside hospital.
So if there wasn't enough time, you could have died. Like if it did hit the artery, that prison couldn't have saved you.
If it hit the artery, like, so, like they went back, like I have the ticket for it. Like they said it was like 8 minutes or whatever. Like they couldn't really see in the cell, but like the altercation took like 8 minutes. So it's one of those situations where it's like, yeah, I mean, if it nicked the artery, like I was gonna die, you know, like the carotid artery. Like there was a reason, like he knew where he was cutting and what he was trying to do. Like he was trying to kill me.
Do you think lifers should be placed with individuals who don't have life? Because a guy like that doesn't care. There's no consequences for his actions.
Yeah. I mean, I think violent offenders or people like who are getting into stuff in there, like you can't just keep lifers like completely separate. And a lot of dudes, they go in there and like not everybody's, you know, like Mikey, like he's one of the most dangerous guys in there, like just because he was just crazy. He was always stabbing people. I think he got locked up, like, I think he caught his case when he was like 16. It was like something like he watched Natural Born Killers and then he went and lit somebody on fire. It was some fucking crazy case. So, and then like he ended up killing Billy the Jew. He tried to get me. He stabbed Tommy Guns. Like he was, you know, like more dangerous than most. But yeah, so I don't know if they should be kept separate. I think that it's too often that there were dudes who were nonviolent guys, like guys would get caught up like at a medium security for like doing drugs or whatever, and then you're sending them to maximum security, and then so like they're not even getting in trouble for like violent shit, and you're putting them with guys who are violent, and then I don't think that's right. I think they should try to do a better job of keeping people separated. You know, like when Mikey ended up killing the guy later, like that kid, I don't think he was in there for a violent offense. He only had a couple of years. Like they should have never been in the same block, you know. And if they weren't in the same block, then like that dude wouldn't be doing a second-degree sentence right now, as we speak.
What do you think
6 months left?
What do you think is the psychology behind these guys like Mikey? Like, what makes them tick and survive in prison and act like that?
Well, I just, so like he knew, like he's doing a natural, and I think a lot of guys, like even like a lot of lifers, like you hold on to hope, like they hold on to hope for as long as they can with like appeals and shit like that, you know, like my buddy Jody, like I remember like he was always like big on his appeals and just kind of keeping hope alive. But for somebody like Mikey, like he's doing a natural, like he knew he had kind of no hope to get out. So I think at that point, like with him, it's just, you know, it's just about like you're just, I don't know. It's a tough thing to resign yourself to the fact that you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, you know? So I just think like you just get caught up in being a convict, or like he wants, you know, to be, I don't know, dangerous or just like respected, you know? I think respect's big in there. Like it's actually one of the things like I kind of like miss about it. Like I just think like in that world, like not everybody is a good dude. Like I've met some of the best dudes I've ever met in there. And I just think it's one of those things like adversity can build character with people, right? But there's also a lot of pieces of shit, and there's also a lot of fake people, like people faking the funk, you know? But character matters. Like that's how you're kind of judged in there, you know? You're judged based on character. Whether you're trying to fool people, you're actually about shit, you know, like whatever. But it's still, it matters in there. And like, I don't know, like out here, it just seems like even like, just like the way we're raised, like you're judged based on other shit, like what job you have, how much money you make, shit like that, you know? I don't know.
What was it like going through those 17 years in prison and watching yourself age? Because those are some pretty, important years where you see yourself, your body changing, you know.
Yeah, I started getting fucking gray hairs and shit in my 30s.
What's it like to look in that mirror in a prison cell and just see yourself change physically like that?
I don't know. Like I said, like in the beginning, like it felt like a life sentence, but like, I don't know, like the days bleed into weeks, and then all of a sudden, like you got years down. It's just like the time ended up passing, right? Like I would look back on it and be like, all right, well, in some ways, like this did feel like the amount of time that it was, but in other ways, like it just like the years passed, you know? So I don't know, like if in the moment, like you're kind of noticing it, like I'm sure like the first time I started getting gray hairs and shit. And I know thinking about it, like, you know, like I was a kid, like I was 20 something years old when the shit happened. And then, like thinking about like, I'm going to be a 40-year-old man when I get out. So it was maybe like forecasting or thinking like ahead of time, like, you know, like that affected me like, oh shit, like I'm going to be an old man. And then when you get there, when you're 40, like I don't, like I'm 46 now. Yeah, I'm 46. Like I still feel like you know, younger or whatever, you know what I mean? Like but I think thinking about it, like I was just like I'm gonna miss all my 20s. Like to me it was like I'm gonna miss the best years of my life, you know, and then I'm gonna get out and like I'm gonna be fucking over the hill and, you know, need Viagra to get it up and like whatever. But
when you're in there, what would you say was the thing on the free world, on the outside world, that you missed the most?
Well, I mean, probably just like family or like close like relationships, like you know, like I had some good friends in there and you have some bonds, but like the situation with Mikey, like that dude was a friend of mine. and then some dumb little thing happened and he's trying to fucking decapitate me. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't happen out in the real world. But yeah, like family, like missing my family, like that was like really kind of the toughest thing for me in there was dealing with like the guilt, right? Like and there's no way to make up for it. Like the hardest thing I went through in prison was like my grandfather in 2004. It's a couple of years after I got convicted. He came down with pancreatic cancer. So like him being sick and not being able to be out there for him and like my grandmother and, you know, like these were the people they were there for me more than anybody, you know? So like not being there for them for that, like that was really tough. And I think that also contributed to like after he died, like at the time, like that was one of the few, like I like militantly tried to stay out of trouble. Like I remember like I wouldn't go to the gym or yard because like I was afraid, I didn't want to get lugged and go to the hole. Like I wanted to be able to call my grandfather and talk to him. But after he died, like it was tough on me for a while. Like I think I lost my mind for a long time in there, you know? But yeah, like I don't know, dealing with the guilt, like you just, and there's no way to make up for it. Like I couldn't go back. I couldn't be a better older brother to my brother growing up. Like, and you just couldn't make any kind of positive difference. Like I remember having the thought, just like that I was the worst thing to happen to the best people in my life. And there was no way to change anything. Like it's just like it's just day after day. Like you kind of have to sit with that guilt. Like there's nothing you can do. It didn't matter if I like internally changed or anything. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't positively affect or positively change. Like obviously some of the shit that I've done, like I can never go back and give somebody their life back. I can't, you know, give his family that person back. Like there's consequences to the actions that I have that you can never change. But beyond that, like if you get out, in theory, like you can be a good person. Like you can kind of like positively make a difference in people's lives. And when you're sitting in there, you don't have the ability to do that. Like you're just fucking there, and it just is what it is, you know.
What was your relationship with your brother throughout this prison sentence?
Well, he's always been there for me, but like I think it was hard on him. In fact, we've talked about it since being out. Like it was hard on him to like you know, we would talk on the phone like a decent amount, like when I could call him or whatever. But he didn't come up much. Like he came up, you know, maybe a few times towards the end of my sentence a little bit. But I mean, he told me, he said like I wish like I would have been there for you more. But it was just so like hard for me, you know, like to see you in there, which I completely understood, you know, like I don't, and he was there for me plenty. Like if I needed something, like I could have wrote and asked him, you know. So it was just like I think his way of dealing with it was just, you know, like to try to push it out, like not think about it, you know.
What's that feeling like getting to the end of such a long sentence? Does it feel real that you're about to be walking out of there? What are your thoughts going in your mind?
Yeah, it's certainly like the time started to drag. Like you know, like I think like it's just you get caught up in there like with whatever's going on in prison. But when you start like when I started to have like a few years left. Like it started to hit me. Like I started thinking about like getting out and like being free. And the more kind of you think about like, you know, the streets or whatever, like the longer your time seems to drag, you know? And it was like the closer I got to my out date, the longer the days seemed, like the more like you would think about, stuff, you know, just out there. So, I mean, it made it harder, but like it was a good, you know, it's a good problem to have, right? Like I was really looking forward to getting out. Like I was looking forward, like I looked at it like I was going to have a second chance at life. And I knew there would be some adjustment. I anticipated there would be some adjustment issues getting out. But, like, it's just, it was just harder in ways than I anticipated.
Well, how much different was it? And how hard was it than what you expected when you got out after all those years?
It's much harder. I've struggled more since getting out than I ever did inside there, right? Like, and I think it's almost like, I don't know, like I thought like there would be some issues, but I was like, I'm gonna be able, like, I have a perspective that most people don't have, right? Like, I thought that like kind of every day I'd be able to wake up and appreciate the fact that I was free, you know, and I would have that basis no matter what I was struggling with, that I would kind of have that thing where like, all right, I'm not fucking in prison anymore, you know? But I think what ended up happening is like when I'd go through struggles out here, like you don't lose sight of that, but like, I don't know. It's sad and it's sick and it's pathetic to say, but the only place like I ever felt comfortable, like I felt comfortable in prison, you know? And in many respects, like you could drop me in prison tomorrow and I would be miserable. It would be fucking hell. But I think I would still be more comfortable in there, in that environment, than I am out here still, you know? So, and when you start to struggle with stuff like that, like, and there was like personality things, like I knew that I couldn't be the way that I was in there. So like, you know, like I used to be kind of like just sarcastic and whatever. I'd say what I thought and it didn't matter if people had an issue with it. But out here I start being really cognizant of that. So like, you know, like there were issues kind of personality wise. I think like I lost my confidence. Like I in there, like I knew how to be a convict. Like I you know, I was a good convict. Out here, all I'd ever done is fail, right? Like all I'd ever done is fail, and I hurt people, you know, people that I loved, and obviously like somebody I didn't know. You want to make a positive impact. You want to make a positive difference, and like I struggle with that, and I think like I had some relationships, and like when those didn't work out, like particularly the second relationship, she had 2 young kids, and like I got really kind of attached to them and like close with them, and I was looking at it like this was my chance for redemption, right? Like I'll have a family of my own. Like I you know, I can't go back and change some of the hurt that caused my family. I can't, you know, go back and hug my grandparents again. Like I lost both of them when I was inside, but this was like a chance to kind of make amends, right? Like I was going to have a family that I could love and protect and make happy and care for. So when I failed at that, and you know, because of my own kind of personal struggles and my own like the way that affected our relationship and stuff like that, it triggered old guilts, right? Like it you know, the new guilts triggered the old stuff, and then I got to the point where like I stopped. I felt like a failure out here. Like I felt like I couldn't live out here. Like the only place I was successful, the only place I was good was in prison, and it felt sad to me, like, and just like kind of pathetic and weak, and it, generally speaking, like I just felt like a lesser version of myself out here, you know. I felt like I lost myself in some ways. You know, like in prison, like I don't know, you know, like I felt just confident or whatever, like, so all that stuff kind of like took a hit out here, and I don't know, like I struggle with different stuff at different times. Like I thought maybe like when I first got out, everybody was like socially, like it's gonna take some time to adjust, but that wasn't really that. Like I didn't, like sometimes like being in like a store or something, like I remember the first time walking into like a grocery store, you know, like I just like was overwhelmed with like the amount of people and fucking like all the food and shit. But yeah, I don't know. I forgot what it is.
What can society do differently to help someone like yourself after prison so that adjustment's a little bit easier?
Yeah, well, there should be. I mean, they should have like more programs. They should have. They could do some like maybe like convict to convict like counseling, right? Like somebody who's been through it and somebody who knows like you're gonna go through struggles. So like you can talk to other like people who are getting out or about to get out, and they can understand like, listen, you're gonna go through shit, but like, you know, you just gotta try to like persevere, right? Like, but they should have more programs. Like they should have like a way for people to find. Like I'm really fortunate. The family support system that I have, like my uncle, like he bought me a vehicle so I could go to work. He paid for me to get my Class A truck driving license. So like, cause otherwise like I wasn't getting fucking hired anywhere, you know? Like I was, you know, I'd be flipping burgers somewhere like if I didn't have a family willing to pay like $8,000-9,000 or whatever it was for me to get my Class A license. And a lot of people just don't have that luxury, right? So guys get out after doing a long time or even a short amount of time. If you have no way to kind of like, if you don't give people any like positive ways to like either make a difference or make a living, it's the easiest thing in the world to kind of gravitate towards back to like what you know or what, you know, like, because even me, like with like I said, like I was able to get a job, you know, like that the license, but it didn't prevent me from like going through these struggles, and you know I've had some like dark times since being out, and it's just, and then it hits different out here because like I said, like I felt like this is my second chance at life. And then like you just like you feel like a failure, like you're failing at it, and so that can be tough. But yeah, I would like give people an outlet so they can talk to people, right? Like therapy or like free shit like that, like free services where you can talk to people. But giving guys like a way to make a living, I think that would be a step in the right direction.
Those dark times that you were just talking about that you've been experiencing, what keeps you from going off the ledge? Because obviously you're not in prison right now. You're not going back. You're on the, you know,
Yeah.
you're going on this path. What keeps you from going off the path?
Yeah, well, I've had, so like for a while, like it was, you know, like my ex, like she was really good. Like even after we broke up and like I started, like that's when like a lot of like the guilt and like just really kind of low feelings started hitting, but like we were still friends, so she was there for me. You know, my brother and his wife, they gave me a beautiful niece and nephew, and I got a really good relationship with them. So for a while, like it was, I didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want to, but I mean, it was a couple of years ago or so, like I was to the point where, even though like I wanted to be there for my niece and nephew, and like I had good people like my ex or, you know, like my brother, like just my family in general, I didn't want to hurt them again. But like I was in a place where I thought everybody would be better off if I wasn't around, you know, like, and when I got to that point, like I mean, I was ready, like I was ready to do like crime again, like just go back down that road. And what ended up happening, so like my boy, he had a gun for me, and I was getting ready, like my plan was to rob drug dealers. Like I had gotten to the point, like my niece and nephew, like it's not that they weren't enough, but like I thought they were better off without me. So I was to the point of doing something like whatever, like I was gonna rob his drug dealer, which for me, like that was my form of suicide. You know what I mean? Like, cause I know, like I'm not a good criminal. Like I wasn't gonna I was either gonna end up dead down that road or just back in prison, which would have been worse than death, you know? So like that was a truly low point for me to kind of have that idea and have that plan to be willing to do that. And this was crazy. What ended up happening, so I was working for my uncle at the time, like making like $100 a day. Like I had a Class A license, but I still was having difficulty at the time, like getting like a job opportunity to actually utilize the Class A. And I'd been fired from my last job, had an issue with people or whatever, and got fired from that. So I was working for my uncle for $100 a day. Me and my ex had been broken up for a while. I'm still dealing with the guilt with that. And I was living at home, and at that point, like I was out 4 years or whatever it had been. And I was like I felt like an absolute failure. So I had these plans to do this. And my boy, like literally, he had a gun for me. Like it was all ready to go. He was just waiting on the guy to re-up, and he was going to call me. And then I was going to, make a move on the dude by myself, which is not really a smart decision. But like I said, like that was just, it illustrates like how like just bad of a place I was in. And I ended up getting a text. I was at work and I got a text from somebody I didn't know. Like I didn't know the name, but I recognized the last name. And he was like, hey, he was like, if we get a chance, like, could we talk? And when I recognized the name, I didn't hesitate. I said, yeah, absolutely. So we scheduled a time, like my lunch break, and he ended up calling me. It was the victim's son from my case, like the guy who died. It was his son. He wanted to talk to me. So he ends calling me. We end up talking, and like he gave me an opportunity. Like I told him what happened. You know what I mean? Obviously I apologized, but like that's one of those things. Like what do you say to somebody? Like he was 2 or 3 at the time. Like I stole his fucking father. You know what I mean? Like what do you say to somebody in a situation like that? So he gave me an opportunity to say all that stuff, and then towards the end of the conversation, he told me that he forgave me. And then not only did he forgive me, he was like, I want you to do good. He goes, I want you to be good. I want you to be happy, make a difference, make my father's death mean something. So him saying those words to me, I mean, like the impact was like immediate, like I went home that night, like, and it just kind of hit me. Like the first thing that kind of hit me, I was like, this man has more of a reason to hate me than anybody on this earth, If he can forgive me, like there has to be a path for me to try to forgive myself, like, because I knew, like, I beat myself up for shit, and I hope, like, a lot of guilt, and deservedly so. Like I have a lot of shit to feel guilty about, but also like, like, and he doesn't even know me. Like he doesn't know I have a good heart. Like at this point, like I knew that I fucked up a lot, but I knew I was a good person. I have a good heart, but I couldn't forgive myself. So the fact that this man of all people could forgive me, that really hit home. And then like the biggest thing was just, like I was to a point where as much as I love my family, I had convinced myself I was bad for everybody. So there was really, like, I don't see any path that I had to like, I had maxed out, and like just being able to, like, because I had been struggling for a while, and I just, like, I couldn't do it anymore. But the fact that this man could forgive me like that, and it was like genuine, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't fucking like fake bullshit. Like he genuinely forgave me, and like he said those words to me, like he wanted me to do good, be good, fucking be happy. Like of all people, this man's telling me to be happy. Like I felt like I owed it to him, like I owed it to him. I owed it to the memory of his father. So like that, I don't know. It's still, it's crazy to think about that he possessed like the strength and just to be able to do that. But but so I immediately, like, I texted my boy. I told him that the plans were off, you know. I went back to looking for work. Like, I went on fucking Indeed or whatever. And literally the next week, I end up finally, like, a company came around, like, gave me a chance to drive, like, a Class A. So, like, immediately, like, I mean, the impact was felt immediately, but, like, I didn't, like, this sent me down, like a spiritual path, you know? Like, I grew up, like, I was, like, atheist my entire life, but it felt like something more, you know? Like, the timing of everything, like, given my mind place at the time, what I was planning, the fact that he reached out to me when he did and, you know, said the words, like, he could have, like, I thought he was just going to tell me, like, you know, he fucking hated me, like, how could I do this, whatever. Like, the words that he said to me, like, the impact that he had, and, you know, the fact, like, I ended up getting a job, like, right after, like, it saved my fucking life. Like, of all people, the victim in my case, his son saved my life. Like, it's just hard to, like, chalk that up to, like, some cosmic coincidence, you know? Like, it felt like something, like, more, you know? So, like, I started, like, you know, like, I worked, like, I've recently, like, quit that job or whatever, but still, it sent me on a path to just keep fucking trying, like, keep trying to you know, kind of work on myself, work on my issues, just be better, because ultimately, you know, life is just about, like, it's about connections, and just, you want to add to people's lives, right? Like, you want to, like, just be a benefit, be a positive. And I had never done that. I had never accomplished that. And so I keep trying with that. But yeah, I don't know.
What advice would you give to someone that finds themselves in your shoes and is just getting out of prison after a lengthy sentence and is feeling lost and is feeling like they can't get ahead? What would you tell them if you were sitting down with them right now?
Just don't beat yourself up for feeling like that, right? Like me, like, I think I compounded issues by, like, you know, like there's times, like, I started, like, having, like, social anxiety and stuff, right? And when I started experiencing that, like, that's not something I experienced when I was in prison. And like, I don't know, like, I felt like a pussy, you know? I'm like, why am I getting, like, nervous around, like, just this random person that I don't give a fuck about? You know what I mean? Like, well, like, just allow yourself to feel how you feel. Like, don't beat yourself up over it. You know, try to be honest with yourself. Like, don't deny. Like, I think sometimes, like, we have a tendency to, like, either bury like, how we're feeling, you know, or try to deny that it exists. Accept that you feel like that, and just try to work on it. Try to, like, what I'm trying to do is, like turn, like, if you can identify your weaknesses, like, you can turn those, theoretically, you can turn them into strengths, you know? You just have to be willing to be honest with yourself, like take an honest look at yourself, make an honest assessment of who you are and what your issues are, and just work on them. But then, you know, like, and I guess the other advice I'd just say, like be patient, you know? Like, I've been out, it's coming up, it's going to be 7 years, like December 29, 2017 is when I got out. So it's coming up on 7 years now. And, like, I'm still fucked up. And, you know, like, for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm on the right path. Like, the spiritual stuff, like, it feels good to believe in something more, believe that, you know, maybe there's a purpose to this life, or there's a reason we're here. Yeah, I think there's a reason why we struggle. Like everybody goes through shit. So, like, your adversity, it can just try to be better, try to learn from stuff and grow from it.
Absolutely. Well, Justin, thank you so much, man, for coming. I'm really happy that we met. You're incredible. For your first time ever, you spoke, perfectly, and you told your story really well. And
I appreciate that. Your Captain Morgan's helped a little bit too. Fucking.
You're our first guest that's had a drink on the show. Actually, I think maybe Unique might have had one drink, but just like the rawness and how much emotion you put into telling your story, I think it's going to go a long way with the listeners.
Well, I appreciate you let me tell the story. I think it's a really like commendable thing that you're doing. Like you faced your own adversity, right? You've found a way to turn that into something good. Like not only are you making a living for yourself, but you give other people like a forum to just come talk about their stuff, which is it can be. I think for me maybe it's like a bit therapeutic, which is good. But like whatever people's reasons for doing it, like you're giving people an outlet to speak, and I don't know, it's a commendable thing that you're doing, because like I know it's not easy, like so
Nothing's easy.
that's true. Nothing.
We all have our challenges and our adversity, and we just got to keep pushing, and you never know what could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. The world is, the universe is crazy.